Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome here to Café Polis, room 8. And as you can see, this looks very much as the last presentation of the day, isn't it? So please welcome your bartenders. It's Dimitri Katson and Arend Jan Kaufman.
Welcome everybody to our bar in Café Polis. That's a nice one. Yeah, well, what can we say? We have a bar. Why is that?
You will see. It's for us, okay?
It's for us, that's for sure. Now, we were afraid that we have an overrun, so we made sure that we have our beer. Yeah, you got it? All right, so Dimitri.
Okay, let's start.
I'm going to introduce you.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
So that is Dimitri, all the way from Thailand. A long-term Business Central developer and actually creator of Central Queue. Everyone is using that, right? Can I see some lights? Come on. Oh, there should be more. Yeah,
nice.
That's it. Look at that. That is your audience, man. So he also built a Copilot thing in Business Central for Number Series, and he's a contribution hero in 2024 last year. So let's see if we can make that again this year. Well, that's Dimitri.
Yeah, and that's AJ Kaufman. So he is the father of REST client model in BC. He's 23 plus years of experience in BC. So, well, what can I say here more? So also CTO of Lumus, and of course MVP for many years.
And the reason why I took this picture, I can tell you that now, is because, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about AI and Copilot and stuff, but I like to be the captain. So that's why I have this picture. Actually, I do have a boating license, so I can call myself a captain. And there's my Copilot. All right, let's move on.
Sometimes I like to be a captain as well, but okay, for this session, let's be. So this idea of the session started half a year ago when we actually had a WhatsApp conversation with AJ about, hey, the modern way of doing developments using all AI assistants, copilots, agents, and so on. If it's like a good or bad, can we trust the results immediately without looking at that? Should we like learn AL anymore? Are we responsible for the results, or who is responsible for the results? So we thought that, well, it's a very good conversation. It got a very good conversation. And this
he actually used some words in a sentence I had to read 5 times and still had no idea what he was talking about. That was the truth, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when the idea of the BC Tech Day session was born, to teach you all these terms today. We decided, well, let's do this. So, but to make it more fun, we decided to do like a challenge or whatever.
Yep.
So AJ, we decided to create an app. So, and AJ will create an app in his old-fashioned way, using all his experience. I will do this using just agent in Cursor, without touching any AL code at all. So we have the same, more or less the same background, but for this session I will pretend to be a junior developer, because I think that it's important for the junior developers to understand where should they use AI, where should they trust AI, in which areas, and so on. Junior developers already have some experience, but they can't 100% rely on themselves. So what I see, they more and more rely on AI. If it's good or bad, let's see. And at the end, of the session, you will have a poll, and you can then vote for the approach that you like the most. The story of the app that we are going to build is the brewery management app. So we are a brewery company. And we will try to automate, integrate the app for the next business process. So we sell the beer in kegs, the keg with the beer. We sell it to the pubs. The pubs pay us for the beer and deposit for the keg. Then they need to return back the empty keg, and we need to track this, if they returned or not. If they returned, they get the refund. We also want to know, like, who owes us how many kegs, how many deposits are there that we need to return, how many pubs, and also we want to expose this information to the pubs, so the pubs will also can access to this information through the APIs. Okay? So we decided to start with one document. So this document, which is called product requirements document, is just a description of what we want in a very business, non-tech language. And then, to make it clear experiment, we actually divided, and AJ didn't see what I did. I didn't see what AJ did. So I actually saw for the first time yesterday.
Last Tuesday, we saw each other's result for the first time.
Yeah.
Just last week. But anyway,
Yeah.
so just a few days ago, we just saw from each other what we had created.
Yeah, and we were like very surprised.
To say the least. Yeah.
So we will start with a vibe coding. So I think that everybody heard this term. The vibe coding is when actually you don't write code by yourself, you ask AI to write code for you, and it writes the code. So I will just go here, and so this is my workspace where I started. This is the...
Maybe you need to zoom in a bit.
Yeah?
I think so.
Okay. So this is, I decided to start with a ALGO workspace, and we have here the folder for the brewery management, our app. So this is our app.
I'm going to do all the work, so I can just sit at the bar
Yeah.
the next 3 hours.
I'll join you. So, and then we have a folder for the tests. Okay, so that's our tests. And then we have this peer product requirement document. Actually, this is the same document, just in a markdown format. We have like key features here that we need to implement the master data import from the some third-party service. We need to track kegs. We need to track given and return. We want to make it available to the pubs, and some success criteria. So that's it. So this is like a very short description. So what I'm going to do now. So this is I'm working now in Cursor, and this is the agent tab. So what I can do, I can ask like implement, and I will point to my app JSON. So this is the my app JSON that I'm going to create, and in the I will say that in the source folder, because currently the agent in Cursor doesn't really work good in the multi-folder environment in the workspaces, so that's I specify that I want to create code explicitly here, and use PRD. So this is our document. Yeah. Let's see. All right.
So, you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, that's good. So, how long is it gonna take? A couple of hours?
Well, let's see. Maybe some 5 minutes.
I'll have some beer then.
Yeah, we can just
Why
watch.
not?
Do you want this?
Yeah, that's good. Let's take that one. Whatever.
Yeah, I will serve you.
He's serving me. He can do that because he doesn't have to work. He can just watch, so he can also serve some beer.
Yeah, sure.
It's good.
Look, guys, this is vibe coding. Okay?
This is how vibe coding looks like.
Yeah, I mean, cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Any
Cheers.
questions?
So what's going on there? Are we done? No, we are not done. Let's see.
Man, look at that.
It's doing something.
He's doing, like you say, he's
Yeah,
doing
it's
something.
doing something. So it's had some plan. So we checked that I didn't have any code. Yeah, perfect. The source folder is empty, so I'm going to implement this. And man, come on! I thought that we will just sit and watch how it's doing.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
aren't we seeing it?
yeah, we see, but I'm not really satisfied with that, man.
What's wrong?
Well, look, it's so it creates me the table brewery, it creates me the table beer. Yeah, maybe I will not so specific in the requirements, but really I want this to be like a customer in the item.
Yeah, that's how I understood the requirements document.
Yeah,
So,
I think it
Yeah.
should work.
so are you saying that the agent is not that smart? Just asking.
It is. Maybe I'm not so smart. Maybe he's smarter than me. It should be implemented like this, but I don't want to do like this.
Oh, really?
And also, man, look how it's structured, the code. We have this. This is an old-fashioned way. I mean, this is your way.
Oh, whoa. do you have Waldo's app in there?
Yeah, Waldo, no, but we have this. It's split by folders. I mean, that's doing something.
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, that's a past. And also, well, man, look, let's use the API that actually is wrong. I mean, this URL doesn't exist.
Whoa.
Oh, damn it. So, okay, it still generated something.
As long as you have your beer,
Yeah, okay.
you
So
got
it's-
that.
So let's I think stop this. I can't watch this, man. Okay. Let's return it back. And I will. So what I have here, once again I will return back to my. Where is my master? Okay, no, never isn't. So I'll return back to my slides. Look, what you saw, well, it works. I mean, if I will continue that, that will definitely work, but it will be implemented very wrong. Completely not that I expected from that. But we have some options how to influence on that. So let's continue and see how to do the vibe code in the right way. Well, this is the right way, by the way. Yeah, but we can do better. So first, what we need to do, we need to prepare the context. Well, context is the key. We had only the product requirement document, which was not technical, so AI actually didn't implement it correctly as we expected. So then we need to move step by step. Okay, so we need to create first the setup tables, so the setup pages, so the main core of our app. Then we are going to import master data. Then we are going to implement business logic. Then we will implement custom APIs. And then we will implement testing. So that's actually how I prefer to work here. So let's look into this one, how to prepare the context. So why context is important? So once again, if you ask something like create setup structure without providing any additional information, AI has no idea what to do. The output could be generic, very often wrong. But if you would be very specific, like, hey, you need to create me a setup table pages with these numbers, with a number series, and you need to create like installation code units, and you need to follow the development plan, and you need to use the like development instructions for the best AL practices. So it will do its job much better. Okay, so let's see how to do this. So what I'm doing here, well, as we're not going to wipe code everything on stage, okay? Because this will just take a lot of time. I'll be honest with you, I really followed our rules. So I didn't touch any AL code, but it took me like 2 days to make it work, okay? So, hello? Yeah, okay. And so what I have here, I have a branch with a code that was generated. And also I have here a chart. So this is the chart that actually I used to do the work. So the first thing that I want to do, I want to generate development plan. So development plan is important document that really help your agent to focus on the tasks. So I asked it, hey, can you from the product requirement document generate a development plan? And it actually, let me show you. So it's actually generated me the plan with actually all the steps that are required to implement this this app. And also it provided me the project structure. But you see here, it's split still by the folders, like tables, pages, and so on, which is the old-fashioned way. Once again, AI, here I'm using the Cloudy 4 Sonnet. Even if it's the model that is very new, it was trained like a half a year before, a year before, so it has a knowledge cut down. And that's why we really need to additionally teach it some things. So what I can do here as well, so I'm going to add a development instructions. And I think I will, let me check. Okay, so what I did, I asked it then to use these development instructions. So what are these instructions? In Cursor, they are called rules. So they are explicitly put it in the Cursor folder and then under the rules. But I actually generated these instructions from the AL Patterns website. So it has all the instructions how to write good AL code, like best practices, the file namings, the fold structure, and so on. And then I asked it to regenerate for me development plan. So if I will look into the new version of the development plan, now it has the folder structure that I recommended it to use. And then it split the work into these development phases. Foundation and setup, first week. Okay, so that's our first week of work. Then master data, week number 2. So actually it's supposed to implement this app in 6 weeks. So if you want to provide some estimation for the customer, this is your way to go, okay? So yeah, this was the context part. So we created the context. So some tips how to prepare good context. You should have the business requirements. You should have implementation steps. You should have like a coding standards. And that's also good advice. You can say to the agent that, hey, if you will write bad code, I know where you live. I'll come for you. Okay.
Is that a threat to AI or to you?
Yeah, it is a threat to AI. Yes.
I like it.
Yeah, it's how we usually do with
but the question then is, who do we know in the Business Central community who is a violent psychopath? Any names that come to mind? No, let's not say it.
Let's continue, okay?
Yeah, let's continue.
Yeah, so your prompt should be short and specific, and then this is your way to go. And also, when you have this information, when you use in Cursor agent, the rules that you put there, they automatically is added as your context and sent to the AI model. So it's always used. But also you are free to mention some files, to mention folders. Maybe you have some existing app, and you can say that, hey, please use this code unit to implement something else. So do this. And also a good trick to implement something which is called log MD file. So after AI implemented something, you ask AI to put what you implemented, what you learned, where you failed in this file. And next time it will generate some code, it will use this knowledge. So let's continue, and we will move to the setup, how I generated the setup part. So I asked it to generate setup with a number series, some configuration, and installation code unit. To be honest, this was from the first shot. I actually didn't correct it, so this was quite okay. So let me switch to the branch and show you how it looks. And I will change the chat. Oh, note. So let me close this. Yeah, by the way, AJ is also responsible today for the bad jokes. So when I'm doing something, you can.
What? I didn't know that. What?
You are responsible for the bad jokes.
Yeah, well, I'm like, what a lot of typing you need to do here. I mean, bad jokes, no, not at all at this point. I know there will be later.
Okay.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Funny thing is that you did hear something that when I saw it the first time, I was like, okay, is that really unnecessary? Do I really need to learn how to work? I mean, I was already on my way, developing some stuff.
Yep.
No, not. I was not.
Man. Yeah, I'm just reloading the screen to load all the chat, because from this moment the chat became really long. So, yeah. So what I asked here, I asked it to implement phase number 1 from our development plan. So it then went and implemented for me setup. It was quite good. So it was implemented the setup table. It also used this procedure that I actually use myself as well. It created me the page. So it was quite okay. The permission set, even the extension of the role center. So we can go here. Let's resign in once again. So we have now the brewery management in our role center, and this is the setup. So it's created actually everything. It created the number series and created the installation code unit to initialize number series for that. So that's how it looked. It was quite okay, I would say. Next, we need to import some data. So I decided to import some master data from the web service that is called Brewery Guru or something. That's a web service with beers and breweries that actually not exist. So that was also fun. The idea here that we want to test agent if it's okay or if it's good to import from some external web service into AL tables. So we wanted to create an API integration layer. Beers should go to items, breweries to customers, and it should use templates. So it first told me that hey, I did everything correctly, but then I told, hey, no, you actually didn't use the template feature. Okay, he replied, okay, now I'm using the template feature. And then, hey, you did use wrong API endpoints. You actually made up everything. And then he told me that, okay, I failed here, but let's do it right. Then I told you, hey, you imported items from beers, but you didn't import the images. He told me, okay, I'll do that as well. So then I told, hey, you didn't validate any fields. You need to do this. So actually, that was like a back and forth conversation. The last thing that I asked it that when he finally created the code that, hey, you are using old-fashioned HTTP client to import data, you should use REST client for that. He just asked, I don't know what's that.
REST client, I've heard about that one.
Yep. So actually I will show you in a demo how to teach it, the REST client. So let's go there. But the point here is that, well, from this moment, you should really test and see and look into what AI was doing. So let me switch here. So now we are moving from 4 to actually 8 iteration because I will skip some that are not so important.
But did you have time to drink some beer in between, or? I mean, what's the idea with iPod?
I mean, that's how I work. I mean.
Well, I do have time. I fetch a new beer.
Yeah, sure. Serve yourself. I mean, you have time. I'll wait my turn. Okay. So where is that? Yeah. So what it did? Let me go and show you this integration. We have here the integration part. Yeah, let's first go and see where we getting data from. So this is the website, which is called brewbuddy.dev, and it has the APIs that actually we want to import from. We wanted to import only beers and breweries, but I asked it to implement these APIs, and it created me a lot more. So it created me import beers, import breweries, and then also get languages, So actually, it implemented me all endpoints that's presented there. But how did he know how to implement this? So what I did, I just exported from the Postman the collection in a JSON format and just told him that, hey, can you just use this collection, implement me from that. It was like a one shot. I mean, it took time, but he did it. But he used this, well, HTTP client, okay? Who are using HTTP client when we have a REST client?
REST client, exactly. It's a lot of code, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of code. So what I asked him, that's my another chat. Hey, can you, let me load this because this is interesting. Hey, can you replace the HTTP client with a REST client? Actually, what it tried to do, so it didn't know what the REST client is. So it searched for the internet. So it searched for the internet, how to implement this. And then it tried to implement this, but then it failed and it removed everything. So I removed that because
so I need to know, is that because of AI or because of the REST client?
this is because there is no good documentation about the REST client in the web. Okay?
So somebody needs to write that.
Exactly. So, well, but I didn't stop there. I know that there was your webinar about the REST client.
That will do for documentation.
So what I did, I just found the first available service to transcribe from the YouTube. I put the link to your webinar and it made a transcription, and like I copied this transcription. So this is the transcription from your webinar. But the problem here is the transcription doesn't have any information about the code that you are showing on the screen. Transcription is just your voice, yeah? But your story that you described there, how to implement a REST client, is very important. So this is one very important context.
And I really think this is a smart way to do, honestly. I didn't see this one coming. So documentation is missing, period. No, goes out on the internet to find documentation or create a documentation. And that is then fed into AI. I mean, that is smart.
Yep.
But that is human intelligence to take that
Yes,
step,
exactly.
right?
So I am ruling this, okay? I know that there is your webinar and I know where to find this information. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle is the code itself. So, but the code, okay, we have the code in the REST client. I mean, this is the system app. This is the system app.
Yep.
But how to, take this and should I just take everything and to the AI? That's not very smart. So what I did, I asked it to create a documentation from the REST client, from the code that's in the Microsoft system app. And it created for me 2 files. The architecture, the workflow, the relationship between models.
Look at that.
It is correct.
That is
yes.
awesome, really.
No,
That
really.
is awesome.
And this is also the public models, all the description of that. So this was really correct. So what I did, so I took this document, and then together with this transcript, I asked it, hey, now use all this information to re-implement to the REST client. And let's return back. Where is my? We'll find the branch. I think it's 9. So yeah, replace. And now, let's see. So now it's correctly used your REST client. So it's used the initialize REST client from the transcript because you described that you need to do this, and also implemented this using the code that is available. So now it's really works. So now it's like one line of code. But what also, well, of course, using REST client is a general thing that we need to do. Okay, so what I also ask it. Not sure if I can find this, but the idea is that, hey, now remember that you need to use REST client and how to use REST client, so you can reuse it in other projects. And it created for me the rule. So from this one, from the chat, it created me a rule. Like always use REST client with the examples and to do. And remember, these rules are always used by the cursor when you ask something to generate. So this is like a continuous flow.
So this is kind of a local training of.
Yeah, I would I wouldn't call it like a training,
no?
But this is like the way how to make things not fail once again.
Yeah. So. What cursor comes out of the box is like somebody who, let's say, stopped learning a few weeks or months ago, is not going to learn anything new, or you have to switch to a newer version of the model, but anything in between is saved by you and fed into the system, so he can reuse that every time.
Yes, exactly. So you can share these rules. Maybe you can include them into the how you create your the projects and so on. So then let's go back here. Let's see how it's really implemented this. I have here it created the API configuration with the endpoint, and actually I can test it, and it works. And then I actually can import from the brew body. It works. Because it just takes time. I already imported this, so let's see. So it's our items in the BC, and that's our beers.
I have the same list.
Huh?
I have the same list. Can tell you that.
Well, we imported from the same API. Okay. So, and if we can go somewhere in any item, I don't know why it's so slow now. We have this brewery information as a tab with the fields, and these fields come from the API. So, well, once again, I didn't code anything here. I just asked it. I provided, what I did, I provided context. So this you need to look at. This need you use it. So I was like a manager here, okay? Yeah. So return back. The business logic.
Finally.
So we imported items. We need to create the business logic. The business logic is we should track CAC moving. When we post sales order, we need to track if the CAC was given. If we post sales return, we need to track that the CAC was returned. And also during the return, we need to create the refund payment journal. So it be there. And that's where it really went wrong.
No surprise.
So first it told me that I did everything. Good. Now actually there were no compile errors. The thing is, there were no compile errors.
Then it works. If it compiles, it works, right?
Yeah, of
That's
course.
a rule.
That's the law. Sure. I mean, but then I started checking and told him, hey, you used the wrong event. This event actually make no sense there. So actually, he used the on after post sales document, the very last event, and then it pointed then to the sales header and sales lines that actually were not existing anymore to get some data from them.
They're finalized and they're gone then.
Yeah, it's already gone. So then I told them, no, you need to do this a different way. Then it re-implemented something, but forgot to implement the main logic that I asked it from the beginning. Then it's didn't forgot some of the business requirements. So it implemented one part and didn't implement another part. And then there was a big conversation. Actually, finally, I think after 15 different rounds, I made it work because I knew, because from that moment I switched back from the junior developer to myself. Okay, because I couldn't wait. But so I pointed him to really focus where to move. But look, I have an experience. So you can actually find yourself in this situation. Like, you ask Cursor to, hey, can you please fix this? And you do this for the 20, 30 times.
But I can tell you, that guy needs some beer. For sure.
For sure. Yeah. Well, you need to really understand how things works, especially with a business, implementing business processes with AI, very bad. So, also, how to escape this please fix loop? There are some tips. Well, the base app actually is your very good helper. So if you have the code from the base app in parallel, you can go search for some code, copy paste it back to the agent and say, hey, please use this pattern or use this code. That's the option. But one smart thing that you also can do, after this long, big conversation, and if you finally made it, you can tell it, hey, now, based on what you learned, create me a good, recreate for me development plan. Or maybe remember this for the future as a separate file, how to do this. And also include this in your current project and your future project.
So it's actually like a junior developer where you are reviewing the code, telling him what he did wrong, and hopefully the junior developer remembers that for the next time. But you make sure by storing all that information.
Exactly, yes. So that's how it works. Also, don't create long charts. So if you have like a long chart, it will start to be very confusing. Start new chart when you implement new feature. Okay, that's rule number one, I would say. And also, what you can do, well, obviously use Git. Okay, so every time you implement with AI, create commit. So then, when you after 10 commits found out that, hey, this was really wrong, I finally made it, but, well, the code is bad. So you ask it to summarize where you failed, you ask it to recreate the development plan, you roll back to the previous commit and ask it to re-implement using new knowledge, okay? So that's really works. So, yeah, so I would switch to this business logic, but to show you a little bit. So we were at number 9, now we move into number 14, because that in between there were my iterations, okay? Let me go and show you the final. Where it was like tracking, I think. The handler. So yeah, so that was So that's how it's actually implemented. So finally, it was pointing to more or less good event that I thought. Then it's decided the movement type, if it's given or returned, based on the sales header document type. Then it actually created the CAC ledger entry. Yeah, so that's the code. It's created the CAC ledger entry. And then it's also created the payment journal line for the refund. So that's also interesting part because it appeared that he don't really know accountant, how it works. So I really needed to point him how these deposits and refunds should work from the accounting point of view.
And that's why you came up with a payment journal line.
Yes, so that's my idea was that when the customer return the CAC, we need to return him the deposit, and this is the payment journal line.
Okay.
Yeah, so because AI actually first created this payment journal line and posted it automatically. So I actually didn't want to post it automatically, okay? This is our payment.
Interesting.
Yes, so these were the main takeaways that, well, that didn't work very well. But also, fixing the prompts is not only good enough, you really need to, you were asking for the model. Okay, so let's now talk about the models.
Whoa, Dimitri, what are you doing now?
You can't see that?
No. You told me you would not do this. Come on.
Man. Okay, I get you covered.
Oh, man. You
And
covered,
them as well.
you covered the models as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that were the models before the AI. Now we have the models. GPT, Cloud, Grok, and so on. So, and we have a choice in Cursor which model to use in every call, actually. So yeah.
Switch models.
Switch models.
Is there something like a divorce, or how do you should I think about it?
Let's be more clear.
So this model doesn't work. Let me take another model.
Yeah. Let's be more clear. Switch AI models.
Oh, AI models. Okay. I was already curious.
Yeah. So different models have different brains.
No, I'm not gonna make more jokes now.
Some models are more logical, some are good at coding, some are just better. Yeah? So there are 4 different models that are available in Cursor from the cloud provider. It could be 3.5 Sonnet, 4 Sonnet, and some others. Gemini 2.5, GPT 4, 4.0, 4.1, and so on, 03. So, well, there are a lot of models out there. So which model to use when? So there is actually a good slide from the Cursor documentation as well. But the idea is that there are like thinking models and there are like classical models. The thinking models are more advanced, more expensive, more long to execute. But what they do, they plan their actions in advance first and then action. So you can use this in more advanced scenarios when you implement complex features or if you want to create the development plans and so on. There are more creative models like Gemini. It's good for generating documentation. It's good for some generic code. But if you work in more some specific, like specific code units, you want to implement some functions and so on, you can use Cloud Sonnet. It works pretty good with AL.
Is there a difference in cost between those models?
So It is, but when you're using the cursor, you actually pay like $20 per month for the subscription, and they are all available for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Including the more expensive models like O3.
O3 actually is more expensive, and you pay extra if you are using that
Right.
there. So really need to be careful when you choose. So what AI models is better for AL? Actually, the answer is very different depending on when you ask this, because every company, every provider release their new model, and at this release they say that now we have the best model, and then the next week other provider release the other model and they say, hey, now there's our best model. So I don't have answer here. But the model that I use most is Cloud Sonnet. Works pretty good. Sometimes I use Gemini, and less I use models from the OpenAI, especially in AL. They are not so good in AL. That's just my experience with that. So let's move to the custom APIs. That's almost the last part that I implemented. So I asked it to implement, to expose my data to the POPs, yeah, and it created me the custom APIs. What's interesting here is that I was actually wanted to challenge him, her, I don't know. Yeah?
Her?
Yeah, so please extend also standard item ledger entry API. So what did it do? And actually it went pretty good. So it created me a clone of the standard page, which was actually very correct. However, it named this clone page item ledger entries extension. Well, okay. So just to show you, where's my API? So this was branch number 15.
APIs, I love APIs.
Sure you do. Yeah, that was the idea also to show that. Yeah, but that was pretty simple. Also one shot created me the API with the publisher, with the group version. From my point, it was all good.
For
Maybe
you?
you have other APIs.
Yeah, I have a... Can you scroll down a bit, please? Okay, so this is... Okay, now
No.
up to the top, so I see only some code here to calculate. This is based on the source table customer, right?
It is.
And you are going to give pubs, who are customers,
Yep.
access to this API.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm.
So all customers can see the balance from all other customers.
Damn it.
That is what is created here, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Whoa. I'm not so sure.
Okay.
I'm
Yep.
not so sure about that.
But that's a good point. Valid point.
There's no security here.
No, at all.
And even, I mean, if you give somebody access to this API, would I have access to the other APIs as well, the standard APIs, with financial data and stuff like that? They actually become a full user in Business Central with access to all data?
Well, of course, there are like permissions that you can assign manually. It didn't assign the permissions to the user, but, well, who knows what
Okay.
permissions would be assigned, okay?
That's something to think about.
It is. I think you are right. And testing. So we implemented our app using the vibe coding. Let's test. Let's also implement some testing. So I asked it to implement tests for the brewery app, covering the sales, return, like everything. Actually, it generated tests for me quite okay. So let me, I think, show you first. So, so what it did. So this is the tests actually that it's generated, and just
Maybe
let's
zoom in.
run this. Look, that's the picture that I got from the shot, from the first shot.
There is some work to do.
It is, but it's very important to understand what's happening here. So, your tests can't be better than your code, okay? Then, if you want to fix your tests with AI, don't do this, okay? Why? Because tests show you where AI-generated code failed. From this moment of time, you really need to dig in and look into what AI generated. This is your good point where you can re-implement something and find really bad patterns and so on. So take responsibility. AI writes the code, but you ship this. So please, well, you can use an API maybe to help you to rewrite something, but well, this is a good point of time to understand what AI really did, where it went wrong, and how to improve this. Okay. And yeah, I had one more before we continue. So this was the only step that I did manually. Okay, so I fixed the code implementation manually when I saw this failing tests. And then when I did everything fixed manually, now my tests run.
Very good.
But now I have a confidence in what AI generated. Your turn.
Yeah, so in the last hour or so, Dimitri took us on the path, his journey, to create this app, which actually took him 2 days.
2 days.
2 days. Well, I'm going to share parts of my journey, creating it in the old-fashioned way. I'm not going to do every step of the way because you all know how it works, right? But there are some interesting differences with the approach that Dimitri took and the approach that I took. So the first thing I actually did was trying to understand the requirements. I will come to that in another slide, but that's the first step. The second step I took is have some kind of a functional design. How is it actually going to work in Business Central? Then I did the business logic. How is the process going to work? Followed by importing some master data and demo data. Finally, the custom APIs for the pubs. And yeah, some testing at the end is always at the end, right? Of course, I should write a test along the way, we all know, but I know many people don't do that. I'm not going to ask to write, to lit your little thing, but if I would ask, I'll probably see a lot. Anyway, this is the difference. So what you see here is in the first 2 steps, I was not even working on the app itself. I was trying to understand how am I going to create it. Then what is also interesting is that Dimitri started with importing master data, and I started with the business logic followed by the master data. Because in my mind, the master data with all its fields that it needs, setup, etc., is a consequence of how the business logic works. It's not the other way around. Like the master data is going to dictate how the business logic is working. The business logic dictates what data I need in the setup and in the master data. So that is actually swapped. And finally, okay, we found each other in the custom APIs and of course testing. So number one, what I did is trying to understand it in the right way. So the first question I had to Dimitri, what the heck is a beer keg? No,
I was surprised you don't know.
no, I don't know. I'm not a... No. I think I didn't understand it right, but this container, right? I got it correct, right? Okay.
Yes.
This is not a bottle, but
No.
like a big container of beer.
Yeah.
All right, okay. So, but then I asked myself, a beer keg, what is it? Is that an item for Business Central? Or do you keep stock of it? Or is it just some disposable? Apparently, it's not a disposable because you are going to reuse it. That's why you ask for a deposit. And when it is shipped, is it then your inventory? Is it your property? Or is it from your customer? And how is that handled in accounting terms? I mean, is that still on your inventory account? Or should it be on another account? Is it completely gone and you wait for it to come back? And how are deposits actually handled in accounting? That's a question I had myself, because this is money that I owe to my customer, but do not have to pay at this moment until they return something. But I still need to know on my balance the money that I owe them, so I have that money reserved. It's absolutely not about profit or loss. That is just an asset, a liability actually. And then the next question is, could we use Business Central to automatically apply deposits on sales? And could we automatically do that with refunds? And all of these things I have been thinking about while I was walking the dog. That's why the picture is there. That's my dog. And I had done quite some walking and trying to contemplate all of these questions.
So you was using your thinking model.
It was my thinking model.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. You could say it like that. Figuring out stuff. Then the second part is, okay, so I have got some questions. Now I have to find the answers, and now I can design in my head how all of this is going to work. My goal is to use Business Central standard features as much as possible. So not trying to create, for example, if the gags are an item, I do have an item ledger entry. And I have in and out there of positive and negative adjustments. So why would I create another ledger entry, ledger for specifically this type of item? Why? So I said, I can use the item ledger entry for that. And then how are deposits actually working in accounting? So I was looking at the internet, actually finding what I'm going to show you, it's in Dutch, but there's an excellent explanation how deposits are posted to GL accounts. Which accounts should be debited and credited, how that works with your inventory accounts. So they move from the real inventory to inventory that is actually issued to your customers. And when it returns, it comes back onto your normal inventory account. So you can see what is the current value and the current quantity that you have on stock, and what is the current quantity and the value, the cost, not the deposit amount, but the cost of the item that is under your customers. So kegs will be items, just flagged as a deposit item. That's what I'm going to do. And what I then decided is, I have something that's called a unit of measure. I'm going to link the deposit item to a unit of measure. So automatically on a sales line, I can see, hey, this is a sales line that does have a deposit item linked to it. I was actually not using any word gag or beer or whatever here. It's going to be more generic. And then I decided to link this on the release of sales order and invoice. Of course, I could do this automatically. As soon as you create a sales line, I'm going to create a deposit line as well, but then you run into trouble with which line number are you going to create. So what I did is, let's do that on release. On the sales order, and when you reopen it, the lines are removed. So you can see what happens there as soon as you release your sales order or invoice. Finally, not only finally, on return orders, hey, there is not something sold as as beer with a keg as unit of measure. You just get back a unit of measure. Oh, sorry, yeah, an item actually, the keg item. So returns are treated a little bit different than sales orders. It's going to be a refund automatically when you have a return order with that item on the line. Very important, a deposit line should have 0 VAT. No VAT is charged on deposit. Just that you know. I mean, something that I figured, and oh, wait a second, when I buy it, when I purchase from a vendor the kegs, I have VAT to pay on it. So I cannot just say, create an item with a 0 VAT. No, VAT should not be applied on the deposits. Another thing. And then I said, well, you know what? I have posting groups in Business Central. Posting group take care of everything. It's the linking pin between what you are posting and to which account it all goes. So that is what I used. And that inventory value, I already said, that should reflect the kegs that are in-house and those that are at the pubs. And then with all these things in mind, I could finally start the business logic, knowing that Dimitri was already struggling and doing some iterations and stuff. I was first thinking, the first thing that I had to do. Well, he let the model think, but then he needed to tell the model that he needed to think different, right? Yep. So what I did is I created a few table extensions, a few page extensions, obviously, and for this whole feature, only 4 event subscribers. That's it. Only 4. The code is actually pretty simple and straightforward. So I have a on the items. So to go here on the item table, just mark it as a deposit item. Tell him what is the VAT product posting group. That's the 01, in fact, etc. And then have some flow fields that give you the a number of outstanding items and the corresponding amount. And then I have some code on the sales. So on my sales line, I say, well, on validating the item number, I need to set the VAT product posting group. That is something that might happen because that might be a deposit. So I check, hey, is this a deposit line? If that is the case, then take the one from the item. That is my 0 VAT in fact. And what then I needed to do is on the release, I need to create the lines and a reopen deleter line. So I created 2 events subscribers for the on before release and on after reopen. And this one is going to the sales header saying create deposit lines. And on the sales header, I go into an implementation code unit. And on the implementation code unit, I have the pattern with an on before, with handled, an on after, etc. Well, they will be proud of me, I guess. So, come on, I hear him. So this is actually the code that I wrote myself to get all of this. So what happens when I go into a sales order? Let me quickly show you how that works. If I create a sales order here, come on, get a customer, and come on, I want to have a beer, some bubble gum beer, whatever. Quantity, I'm going to have 10 kegs, and well, it's usually sold by the liter, but I choose to have kegs in here. And when I say release, I get another item line here for the keg itself with the price, which is actually the deposit. That is, in total, is this what the customer owes me? Well, this is the VAT only on the first line. So that is actually, after a lot of thinking, not so many code to create. I had some drawbacks, some challenges when I was doing this. One of them was, how do I refresh a total on the sales order after creating the deposit lines? I'm talking about this part here. This is actually on your subform. How do I update it? Because it didn't update automatically after I created the extra lines on release. Only when I closed the sales order and then reopened it. But hey, the user wants to see it immediately when he releases. So what I did is dive into the code. How actually does that work? And I found out that I could do this with just one line of code. Force totals calculation. I had some iterations here to find it. I have some more code, but after all, this was the single line of code that worked, and I like single lines of coding. Then I wanted to have a flow field on the customer and the item table to sum the total outstanding deposit amount. So I was going to create a flow field that sums up the sales amount on the item ledger entry. That's not going to work, because the sales amount on the item ledger entry is a flow field itself to the value entries. So that was not going to work. So how could I solve that? I couldn't use that field. I could not calculate it in code because that is a performance issue. I'm not going to run and iterate through all the item ledger entries and then say calc sales item, whatever. Not going to do that. So the only thing that I came up with is the deposit amount itself should be on the item ledger entry. That's it. It's not a value entry anyway, so let's leave it there. So I created an extra table extension. I'm not going to show you, it's boring. Table extension for the item journal line plus an event subscriber to move it from the sales line to the item journal line to the item ledger entry.
By the way, this is a very complex task for the AI agent to make it right. If you create a new field into the item ledger entries, it has no idea about the process, how to put it there. So it should, because you need to do it through the item journal lines, and it has no idea about the process.
Yeah. So it takes a developer. And of course, you see the picture, that's what happened to me, of course. While walking the dog, I was somehow sleeping at night. Something came in my mind. Oh, I need to think about this. Oh, I need to do that. And then I couldn't sleep, or I just said to the dog, we go home now. So the master data import.
You really love your dog, right?
I do. Yeah. But I need to work on that walking now. he got lazy. I decided to have some master data import for the GL accounts that I needed to create just for demo, posting group setups, item templates and whatnot. So how am I going actually to create that data? As hard-coded data? Nope. I decided to go with YAML files and then convert them to JSON during import. So what you see here in the demo data is a resource file with data in it. These are the GL accounts that I wanted to have. This is a YAML file that is added as a resource to my app. So in my app JSON, I have a resource folder, the brewery demo/demo data. And in my code here, I just say, move it up, JSON object, read from YAML, and then get the resource as text. That worked like a charm. I mean, I could have done it as a JSON file, but I decided to go with YAML because it's more readable and easy to write.
Yeah, and no AI model knows about that, because this is the new feature.
It's a new feature, so the model doesn't know about it unless you tell him to use that, right? And then, of course, I could use those new stuff in JSON, like JSON object get boolean, get integer, JSON object get text, all of that, because I know that it is new. And then I had to import the data from that API. Beers include a picture, and the breweries. Well, that was funny. I called Dimitri. I said, oh, come on, you had in your requirements, I have to import breweries, but I'm going to sell to pubs, right?
Yep.
So how does that work? Brewery is actually your vendor of beer, not your consumer.
It was
not your customer.
Yeah.
It's just to have a list of customers, of course. So I used the REST client module. Of course, I did. Supports get as JSON. And I'm using the new JSON functions as well. And just to show you how I do that, very little code, actually. This, let me zoom it in. Now you see all the code of my connector code unit to BrewBuddy. That's all it takes. So I just say, hey, get us JSON from beers. Well, it knows where it is because there is a page address here. And that's it. Get us JSON as an array. And then in my code, somewhere down here, I can then say connector get beers. And beers here is a JSON array. And that's it. That works like a charm, actually. So with that, I could import everything. And of course, by the way, after importing, Dimitri, there's something that I didn't show you. But what I have in here is a view for all the beers. I mean, why not? I'm not going to run the import. Believe me, or trust me, it works.
By the way, you know, fun thing, AI actually, during his generation, also created me a view of beers, but it didn't use the view from the page. It just created an action to filter the items.
And then we had that API stuff. And the challenge for me was, hey, access should be limited to only the API that they may use. So should be limited to only that one, not being able to get any data from other APIs. And it should be filtered to only show the data from that customer. So what I did is I created a permission set for pubs with only access to that API page that they're allowed to open, to call, and only access to the tables that are used in that API, including the login permission set, and to filter the data. And add the Entra app ID that the customer is using to the customer and filter it.
Man, this is smart.
So, I mean, let me just show it in a code. So here, I have my API, and in the API, I say, on the open page, get the current user and its security ID, and then do a set range on that ID. So this is the only data you get out of it. Well, the source table is, in fact, the customer. So the result of that looks like this for one single customer, not all the customer records. And the permission set is actually this one. It includes login and has the customer table data and the item ledger entry table data. It needs to have the customer table to execute and access to the two API pages that I have. That's it. And it's the only permission set that I assigned to the Azure app, the Entra app registration in Business Central, and it worked. So that is to make sure that the customer cannot get access to data that he should not get access to. So with that, I think it's time to put this to a vote.
Yeah, but I want to admit before that you cheated, okay?
Did I cheat?
Yes, you cheated.
When?
Because you used your 23 years of experience of coding to not do any code here. So you really implemented so small code, man.
To do handcrafted coding, it takes some experience, I'm afraid.
Yep.
All right, so let's put this to a vote. Which one do you think is the best approach? And we're going to have, let's wait for half a minute and then show the results.
Okay.
So you have three options there. It is either vibe coding or handcrafted or a blend of both. That's actually the three options.
Vibe coding.
Come on. So let's see.
Man.
100 responses. Dimitri, do you want to say something?
I own you a beer. Or maybe a keg.
A keg of beer.
A keg of beer.
Yeah, a pellet. Now, I think that blend brew, what you see here, is actually the two combined.
Yes.
So if you, together with vibe coding, it's still less than handcrafted, but I'm actually surprised because I was like, okay, when I had a discussion with Dimitri back in December, actually, I was like, okay, I'm not going to stand a chance against the master of AI himself.
No, but I pretended to be a junior, okay?
Yes, you pretended to be a junior. Absolutely, yes. You did well. All right, so thank you for voting. I'm going to change back to our conclusions that we had after we shared what we created. And in our conclusion, generally spoken, AI is good for generating code. We can use it. But you should use it specifically to generate code when you're talking about APIs or test code or documentation. That is what it is actually very good to. Because it is not so good in understanding the business logic. There's no knowledge about the Business Central internals. Does not know how to utilize standard features. So if you just give it a list of requirements, it's not going to judge. It's just going to create what is in those requirements. It's not thinking, hey, we are here in an application. Yeah, you're on your screen.
Yeah, okay.
We are not here in extending an existing application. It does not know about all the features that are in there. And does not know about the latest AL features. So in our opinion, it still takes a captain to use Copilot.
Exactly. I fully agree with that. So usually the story ends here.
But we have 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
And some beer.
And I need to return some points to myself. Okay. So let's assume that 1 year later, we got this app running, and we have like a lot of data. Like, okay, CAC ledger entries a lot, item ledger entries a lot. So you can, of course, analyze them using the internal tools, so in Business Central. But we can do something special. And let's do the data insights with Copilot.
This is awesome. What he's going to show you now.
Amazing.
Really.
Yes. So what I have here, it's an app which is called Data Insights Copilot. Let me zoom it a little bit. So I can ask the questions in natural language. Which pubs have the most outstanding CACs? So let's see. So the pubs with the most outstanding CACs are this blah 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 with the CACs. Okay. You see the answer was a natural language. Okay. Maybe I can ask it for the distribution of my customers by using the CACs. And I can do this also with
Look
some
at that.
nice charts. Okay. I can ask other questions about the CACs, like maybe we have. Like, give me the movement volume per month given this returned. Complex question, by the way. Okay. Let's see if it works.
Generating better code. I like that phrase.
Yep. Maybe let's see. It has three shots. Okay. Let me maybe. Sometimes you need to run it again.
Switch the model.
You mean AI model or?
Yeah, I'm talking about the AI model, sorry.
Okay, let's run it once again. It's LLM, I mean, can do this. Now we have, this was a complex question. If you ask how is it done, yeah? Okay. Actually, I'm not sending any data at all to the LLM, at all. So what is happening here, it's actually generating the Python code that's run in the Azure function, and it's identify which APIs are available in the Business Central. It identify which APIs are relevant to answer on my questions. It pulls the data from these APIs, combine this data together, and then return me back the data and the charts, and then interpret this data using also a large language model. The good thing is, I need to return some points, you remember? This is the open source. So, yeah, it's for you. So,
really?
Yeah, so this is in my GitHub, BC Code Interpreter, and there is an Azure function, there is a Business Central app, there is a description how it works with the architecture. I also have a blog post on that, so you can go and learn it. So, well, it really works quite good. So let's ask it a really important question about the beer. Which beer is the best?
Fingers crossed. Okay, that's a tough question.
Oh yeah, but it found everything it's needed. Let's see. The selection of beers for the BC Tech Days Walk-in Dinner includes a variety of unique options. Enjoy discovering your favorite during the event.
There are the beers.
These are the beers.
So you know what I say? So, if we hurt you in any way, take a beer. Let me open it for questions. Somebody is going to throw that stuff, and I will then do the T-shirts.
Okay, so you made AI build you an app in 2 days.
Yep.
How long do you think would it have taken you to write one yourself?
How long did it take you?
Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah.
Then how long would it take you when you combine your experience and use these AI models to help you in, generating fields or whatever?
Yeah, it's a good question. So from my experience, I would say that it's almost the same amount of time it takes for me to write the code by myself or the code using AI. But with the code, when AI helped me to write the code, actually I get something extra always. For example, tests. I love to write tests by myself, of course, but AI really good at that. So, but also some additional features you can always get. Maybe you forgot about something to implement. AI really can help you. Not in the business logic, that is still bad, but in these APIs things, it really helps you to integrate.
Gentleman over there has a question.
Hi, test. Hi, Dmitry. I had similar question. We did it on one of the social networks, but I'll give it a try once again.
Yep.
Why we always say AI is not that good in AL, right?
I didn't tell that.
I think you did, actually. I don't understand the complexity. So the answer is, so if you have Python or whatever other, there is a lot of sources on the web and everything. I understand that. But isn't BC, if you only talk about standard code, that's something fixed. That's something Microsoft can fit in one of the models in a matter of minutes, I guess. Let's not talk about add-on size and so on. That's just it. Python and other languages, they are much more, you know, not that fixed. Where is the complexity? I chatted actually with AI to ask why AI doesn't know AL that good. Then they say BC is not only about code, it's about business logic and everything, right? It needs to understand accounting, posting groups and everything. But Microsoft can take this Contoso, or how to say, demo company, and feed in that. It doesn't need 10 million records. It needs a couple of master records and everything. Where is the complexity? Why? Or are we getting it soon? Or how we push Microsoft to do it? I don't know. I don't understand why is it so complex.
Okay, so that was a long question. Now we have a short answer because...
Sorry.
Yeah, so
More people
that's a fair question. So first of all, why it is bad in AL? Well, now it's not so bad in AL syntax, okay? But AL is not only a syntax, it's a business logic, it's the existing functions in a base app and so on. So it struggles there, okay? So the other question was why Microsoft didn't teach AI for the AL and business logic. Well, I can't reply on behalf of the Microsoft, but what I know that they don't, well, Microsoft don't train their own models. They have some small models that they are trained, like P, but they're not really investing in this. So their more interest, as I understand, is consumption of their Azure from the models of other providers. So that's the business model, okay? So that's why, and other providers, they train their models in a more generic way. Is it, yeah? Cheers.
No, come on.
So,
Just helping.
yeah, so the companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, they don't know what is BC, what is AL. So what they are doing, they train their models on the GitHub. Yeah. So okay, our app, like a base app, is on the GitHub, but Python, for example, there is like 100 million of different repos available on the GitHub, and we have like, okay, if we have 1,000, it's quite a good number. So, and large language models are trained to predict next word. So they need to learn on the existing data. The more data they have, the good is prediction. We just don't have enough data for that.
All right, so gentleman in the back.
Hi. Yeah. Dimitris, this question is for you. Yeah.
Again.
Ah,
You
okay.
have all the questions, man.
While you was being junior developer, did you found, or is there any way to give the capacity to Copilot in VS Code to read the symbols from installed app files? Because it keeps suggesting standard methods that don't even exist, and it would really help if it stopped making them up.
Yes.
Because when I'm programming, for me it's a bit frustrating, and I don't know if it happened to others, but it doesn't use or have knowledge of the standard BC methods flow between code units or events.
Exactly. So we now have like two most common IDEs where we do AL development. Most common is a VS Code and a Cursor. Yeah, there are some others, but they're not so commonly used. Cursor was always before the VS Code. So first AI features were released in Cursor, and then VS Code actually picked up and implemented more or less the same features in GitHub Copilot in the VS Code. But the latest release of VS Code Copilot, they have ability to reference symbol files in the chat. So in the chat, you can reference not only files, but also symbols, which we don't still have in, well, no, not we, but I use in Cursor, so, but I don't have this in Cursor yet. That's why my workflow is more maybe old-fashioned, okay? So like I have my base app always open, and then I know where to search it, and I grab some code and put as a context. By the way, also good thing that this is the same in a VS Code or Cursor, you have a base app, and if you want to search something, okay? The normal search, you need to know what to search, okay? You need like keywords or something, the name of the function and so on. But if you use the agent tab, you can ask a question, and the base app is already pre-indexed in the workspace, so they can do the semantic search through the base app. And it really helps sometimes to find information that you don't know where exactly it is.
So we have one last question over there.
Okay.
My question is, did you try to provide, to combine your two ways and provide to AI, for example, functional design at the beginning, to prepare functional design like in standard way, and after that provided like additional document to AI to understood what vendors should be, what it should be items, what we should use posting group, and so on and so on.
Yeah, so that's actually what I did at the beginning when I told about context preparation part. There was, but I called it like a development plan. But in this development plan, it was more technical how this should be implemented.
Yes, it was technical, not logical, not business logic.
Yeah. But there were some logical stuff as well. But as a junior developer, I actually give this to the AI to generate this for me. So actually, maybe as a workflow could be also import this from somewhere or created by yourself.
So yeah, I agree. If AI was fed with a functional design with more specific instructions, then of course that combination would be would result in a better app.
Yep.
And that is actually why I think that a blend brew is the correct answer to the question. Which one is best? Because it's not one is the best. It is the combination that can make it really strong.
Thank you.
All right, with that, thank you. Enjoy the beer and the walking dinner.
Thank you.
And Dimitri, come on. Cheers.
Cheers.